But the pressure is building in New South Wales Parliament House as more evidence piles up against the Premier's former boyfriend at their Independent Commission Against Corruption hearing. Now, a lot of what was led at the inquiry today into former MP Daryl Maguire's business dealings were canvassed on day one when the Premier Gladys Berejiklian was in the witness box. But Counsel assisting homed in on Maguire's revelations to the Premier via telephone calls about his deals connected to the Badgerys Creek airport development. Again, Maguire seemed to be protecting the Premier by saying that he couldn't recall ever giving the Premier specific details of his property dealings.
I don't know that I ever went into specifics. It was just broad discussion stuff.
Now, while there's no evidence of corruption against the Premier, Counsel assisting Scott Robertson explained that ICAC's apparent fishing expedition targeting the Premier and what it was all about.
Regretfully, it's been necessary for this inquiry to trespass on matters that ordinarily would be entirely private. But as part of this Commission's responsibility of investigating not just alleged corrupt conduct, but conduct that is connected with alleged corrupt conduct, it was necessary in my judgment, and as I apprehended in the Commission's judgment generally, to trespass at least in part on matters that would ordinarily be private.
So it's not just about investigating corrupt conduct, but those connected to corrupt conduct. And again, at today's daily COVID-19 press conference, the Premier stepped up her aggression towards the media's repeated questioning about her ICAC evidence and what she was told.
And my message, excuse me, let me finish, okay? I've given you your turn for the last 3 days, let me finish.
But politicians aren't so exposed in the House, and Labor was not letting up.
Mr Speaker, my question is to the Premier. You said you didn't know Iwan Sanuto, but you did. You said you didn't know what UWE was, but you did. You said you didn't know your office was used to lobby property developers, but you did. You said you didn't know Daryl Maguire stood to profit from a property deal he was lobbying for, but you did. How can the people of New South Wales trust you?
Right.
Look, Mr Speaker, the opposition can clutch at any straws they like. The truth is I've done nothing wrong and the people of New South Wales know it.
I think it's universally agreed there is still no evidence of corruption in reference to the Premier. And she is being buoyed by a groundswell of support. There are letters to the editor, talkback calls, and there's quite a deal of support being sent to Parliament House and to the Premier's office. But the ball is now firmly in the court of her Liberal colleagues. Do they end the haemorrhaging by calling for her to stand aside while the investigation continues? Or is Gladys Berejiklian hold on power terminal? Is it inevitable? At the very least, maybe the Premier now needs to give her government space to govern, and maybe the best course of action would be to step aside until ICAC hands down its findings.